welcome back to our Holy Week Devotionals. We're so excited that you have decided to join us for these today. Wherever they find you, I hope they find you well. Our thoughts, our prayers are with you, and God is with you. And we're excited about celebrating His resurrection this week and everything that means for us as Christians. And we've been looking a little bit about what Jesus really came to do for us, and the impact that it had, not just at that time, but the impact that has reverberated even now, thousands of years later. And one of the things that I think about, and I think we'll try to consider today, is what Jesus did for us and how He brought us something that maybe isn't always as obvious to us. Each one of the stages that Jesus went through throughout this week, He was surrounded by people. He was surrounded by people who wanted something from Him. He was surrounded by people and people there that hated Him and wanted to kill Him, obviously. And He was surrounded by His disciples. And He found Himself, when He was in Jerusalem, He found Himself in crowds all the time. And even though He was in these crowds, there was always these times that you can see throughout this week that He got away to be alone. Ultimately, we know because He knew that He was going to have to go through this crucifixion alone. And that thought to me really strikes me because, not unlike Jesus' day, I think there's many of us that we could be like Jesus, living in a world that's full of people, that is full of stimulants, whether it's all the things that we need to do for our jobs or our families or at school, not the least of which is all the things that are trying to draw our attention away on our phones or TVs or computers or whatever it might be. And those things, even though it gives us the impression or the idea that we are amongst a huge group of people, they often serve to make us feel alone and make us feel lonely. And I always consider and think about that when Jesus went through some of these things, how He carried a burden of loneliness on Himself. Jesus, as we've been going through this series at FCC, Jesus showed us that He wasn't just here on earth for a short time and then we would never see Him again, but that what He was doing for us and His Spirit that He left behind to us is not something that just goes away and definitely shouldn't cause us to feel that loneliness, but we still do. But it's good for us, I think, to look at what Jesus did and how that is conquered through His death and resurrection. Because when it was in those crucial moments, when it was in, whether it was the Garden of Gethsemane, or whether it was the walk, carrying a cross, whether it was His crucifixion or His resurrection, He took on all of that burden of loneliness. And we can see that when we study the book of Matthew, as I just shared, that Jesus in the beginning of the book of Matthew shows us that He is Emmanuel, He's God with us. And at the end, He promises that He is with us always, even to the end of the age. And I think that for some of us here that are watching this, that we can often think, I'm going through something like loneliness, or I'm going through something that maybe no one else sees. And I want to share with you that I think that God sees it. And I think that He not only sees it, but I think that He's also conquered it on the cross. And that He offers us an invitation to walk in that freedom, to walk in that companionship that only He can give, and that He furthermore shows us how we can then reach out to others to help bring community and life to everybody that we interact with. And so when I think about Jesus going to the cross alone, I think about how He carried that burden for us, and how regardless of how we feel, He invites us into a space where we can walk in community with Him, we can walk in fellowship with Him, and He then asks us and encourages us to include others in on that promise. So let's think about that today as we go throughout our day, or maybe we are having those thoughts or those feelings. We can give those to Jesus, knowing that He can take care of them and He can take care of us, and that He sees us. And even though we might be feeling lonely, He's there with us, and He understands what we're going through. Thank you so much for watching today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope that you'll continue to remember to take some time this week, focus a little extra time and effort on your relationship with God, the process of understanding the price that Jesus paid through His death and resurrection on the cross. And I hope you'll take some time, some extra time this week in prayer, reflecting on the goodness of Jesus and what He did for us. Thank you so much, and have a great day.